Good morning, everyone.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
We were at this point at the end of the lecture yesterday. We started discussion on pseudocode. If you have a doubt in yesterday's lecture, you can ask it right now. We still have 2-3 minutes till all the people join, so we can discuss the doubts. Any doubt in all these things? That how this conversion was working, and then after that we discuss the memory classification, algorithm, flow charts.
सर आप आज सूडो कोड से वापस से एक बार इंट्रोडक्शन से कराओगे ना?
हाँ, pseudocode मैं शुरू से कर रहा हूँ.
ओके सर.
pseudocode तो स्टार्टिंग से करेंगे आज. So let's begin. I think it's the right time to start. We still have, yeah, I mean, it's two minutes are over. So what is pseudocode? Pseudocode is a generic way of describing an algorithm without using any specific programming language related notations. It means that we don't have to write anything specific to a particular programming language. When we say that it does not have any, we do not use any specific programming language related notation, it means that when we write a pseudocode, we have to make sure that we are not using uh, uh, any kind of hash include or maybe int or something like that, which is very specific to a particular language. So we need to skip those things. We should not use that. And yeah, so this was something that we tried to discuss yesterday. This is a pseudocode where we are trying to do some kind of a search. Just by reading few lines out of this, we can be sure that something is related to search in this code, in this pseudocode. And can anyone tell me that what kind of search is this? What's happening here? Just by reading this pseudocode, this is not a proper algorithm. We are not assigning any value. We are not defining a start and the end point. And also we are not making any kind of a flow chart here, or this is not a full code also. So how do we say that this is a pseudocode, and what is it doing? First of all, except if or else if nothing is there in a way which can tell us that this is a code. Otherwise, it's just English written, right? If within the boundaries of search, calculate the midpoint. Well, if the value is at midpoint, return the midpoint. Else if the midpoint is too large, look to the left. So the meaning of this is, I will take one example. For example, I have this thing written 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Let's say I have these numbers and I want to search 2. Out of this, I want to find that where is my 2 located in this array and in this list of values. So uh, within the boundaries of search means that from the starting point and the end point, calculate the midpoint. So midpoint means this location. So if I say that this location is location 0, this is location 6. So 0 1 2 3 up to 6 is the number of locations available to us. So I can say that the midpoint will be available 6 plus 0 upon 2, midpoint is 3. So third location is this 4 number. So this 4 is my midpoint, and now I will check that if my value is at midpoint, I was searching for 2. So 2 is not equal to 4, and if my value at midpoint is too large, so too large or maybe only large will work. So if my 4 is greater than 2, we have to look to the left. It means that we have to come to the left and we have to keep our search between this only instead of the full list. And otherwise, if I was looking for a 6, so 6 would have been greater than 4. It means 4 is smaller than 6, and we have to look to the right, and we have to, in a way, look on the right hand side only. So this is kind of a searching algorithm which is helping us to get the job done. And someone has written that it looks like a binary search. This is exactly what is called the binary search. Binary search में भी हम यही सब करते हैं, that I mean the technique I just told you, that we are dividing our search between I mean using the midpoint, we are moving to the left or the right, we are limiting our search to the left or the right depending on what the number is compared to the midpoint. So we will limit our search within this, and then again we will find the midpoint, and then we will check if it is midpoint or not. If it is too large, then again move left or move right. So this breaking of full list into smaller parts, this whole process is called binary search only. So this is binary search pseudocode, and we have to return -1 if the value was not found. In case I was looking for 0 and 0 was not available within this list. So after the full search is over and my 0 is not available in this list, I am very sure about that. Then I can say that for this 0, the value was not found. So I can return -1 instead of this location if I was finding this. So if my number is found within the list, I will return the location. Location matlab जैसे यहाँ पे 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 इनका जो location है, it looks like this. You can also say, let's say that this is my list of numbers and I have 0, not 0, but 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. These were the 7 numbers and locations इनकी थी from 0. So 0 1 2 3 4 5 6. So my midpoint is location number 3, value 4 is my midpoint. तो इसको आप ऐसे भी देख सकते हो कि हम ऊपर या नीचे देख रहे हैं, but we always say to look to the left or to look at the right, because when we do this kind of a search, we assume that we are working with an array. Array is one concept that will come to you in few lectures, but this is kind of something which is very popular in data structures and even your C programming. So moving to the left or right assumes that your array is in horizontal direction and not in the vertical direction. So that's what a pseudocode looks like. And this we are just looking at the kind of what we need to do. This is not a full code. This is pseudocode. Any doubt in this? If you have a doubt in this, you can ask. And the only thing is you don't have to write anything specific to a programming language. अगर आपने in pseudocode, if you are writing int or maybe return, uh, return 0 will still do. If you are returning some value, return -1 or return 1 or return 0, this is acceptable. This is still acceptable, but you cannot be very specific about the data types, because data types has a difference. You can use int in C and C++, but you cannot use int in Python. So int तो नहीं use करना, ये तो guaranteed है, because it will be very specific to a programming language. So you need to take care of this thing when you write a pseudocode. So pseudocode is the outline of a program written in a form which can be easily converted into real programming statements. So just by reading the pseudocode here, you can make some type of code and you can get the logic out of it. Now moving to the generation of languages, there are 5 languages, 5 generations of languages, and we have discussed already the first 3. Machine language was the first language. Machine language means we are directly dealing with 0 1 0 1. So these kind of numbers, if you can directly type and get the job done from the computer, you are I mean, you will be a genius in a way, because it is kind of impossible to directly write 0 1 0 1 and get the work done from a computer. So that's machine language. That's not our language. Second generation language was assembly language, and in assembly we have discussed this thing LDA5. I told you load 5 in the accumulator register. So let's say this is my accumulator register. We are putting the value of 5 into it, and then you can also say that st0 and put the value So it means that you are storing the value of 5 in some memory location. On the back end, there is some memory location the way we do in C programming. So there is some memory location on the back end which is saving 5 instead of putting it in the accumulator register. So these kind of commands, LDA, STO. So this is assembly language and it has some kind of 0101 related to it. And that kind of conversion between the assembly to machine language is done by assembler. This we have already discussed in the yesterday's lecture. Similarly, for high level programming languages C, C++, Java, we can convert them into machine language, third to first language we can do using a compiler without converting my third language into second language and then first. We can directly convert the third generation language into first generation language by using a compiler. So this is about the first three generation of languages. The fourth generation language is something related to SQL. It is structured query language. You just have to remember SQL. And there are other types of SQLs also. There is no SQL. Uh, so, and there are one or two more different examples of this fourth generation. And in that you can directly find all the records where name is Smith. This line means, for example, you have a Excel sheet. We all know how Excel sheet looks like. There are lots of rows, right? And there are lots of columns. So in a way, when we say find all the records having the name as Smith, let's say I have 100 records, 1, 2, 3, up to 100. And wherever my name is Smith, let's say it was on the 50th, it was on the 50th row, it was on the first row and the second row. So if we have Smith on first, second, and 50th row, this command find all the records where name is Smith, and this is not exact syntax of SQL, but if you write that syntax, only 1, 2, and 50th row will be coming as the output instead of the full Excel sheet. So that kind of searching is very easy in very large amount of data sets, and it is helped by SQL to us. Fifth level language is used in the AI and neural networks. Some might say, so Python is one of the language which is used in AI and neural networks. It doesn't mean that Python is fifth generation language. Python is third level language only. It is high level language. It is understandable by us, and it also requires a compiler to interpret the things that needs to be done. But in a way, fifth generation language means that when you train a AI, so let's say this is AI, it is a box which takes the input of some image and it lets us know that if that image contains a cat or a dog. So this is one of the famous example. Let's say we are sending an image into my AI system and AI will tell me that if it is a cat or it is a dog. So we cannot directly make a program to do this. You cannot make a program that this looks like a cat or a dog or a human being. It's the work of AI to make the sense out of these values. Can anyone tell me that what is the raw information behind a photograph? So let's say this is my photograph. It has some person in it. So why have I made these boxes? Can anyone tell me? In a photograph, when we say that we have a photograph, this is collection of pixels, right? Does everyone knows this?
Yes, sir.
Collection of pixels. Pixels क्या
Yes.
होते हैं? Pixels are the numbers, and uh, we have seen that, let's say, char character जो हमारा होता है वो हमारा 8 बिट का होता है, एंड 8 बिट में हमारे कुछ वैल्यूज आ सकते हैं, राइट? 1010 समथिंग लाइक दैट. सो वैसे ही हमारे जो पिक्सल्स होते हैं इनकी रेंज भी जैसे 0 से लेकर 255 तक होती है. इसमें अगर 0 नंबर होगा, अगर पिक्सल का नंबर 0 आया, इसका मतलब इट इज ब्लैक पिक्सल. सो बिकॉज दिस इज ब्लैक एरिया ऑन दिस screen right now, so this area where it is purely black, it has a 0 pixel in this area, and where it is purely white, let's say this area is having purely white, so within this location it will have 255 value as a pixel. So if you take a screenshot of this particular screen right now, and you read that image into a form of a matrix, because it is a matrix and it is a collection of pixels. So when we say it is an image, it is a collection of pixels. So this particular area in this image, let's say this is my area with what I'm talking about. So this area is equivalent to this first pixel, right? And this pixel, because it is black area, most probably आपका जो first pixel of this image होगा वो 0 होगा. ठीक है, मतलब मैं यही कहना चाह रहा हूँ that when we say that we have different pixels, it has a value between the range of 0 to 255, and that kind of coding we cannot do to make the sense out of this thing, that directly आप pixels के basis पे बता पाओ कि is this a human being, is it a dog, is it a cat. That is the work of AI and neural networks, and that's done only by training of AI models, and that's why it is called the fifth generation of languages. So right now, these are the 5 generations of languages. If you have a doubt on this slide, you can ask. And you can also see some examples here in front of you. So when I say first generation language, it is directly machine code. Machine code means 1010. This is your second generation language where we are using the assembly code. Load the value of 34 into the accumulator, add one value into that accumulator. So when we say add 1, it means, because I am not specifying any kind of a register here, by default accumulator की बात हो रही है. So if you run this, first two commands LDA 34, it means that accumulator में 34 डाल दिया जाए, and add 1, it means that this number should be updated to 35. तो ये 35 से replace हो जाएगा, and in the end you are kind of storing the value of 34 at some place on the memory on the backend. Similarly, the third level language example is x equal to x plus 1. That's what we have already done in C programming. And similarly, fourth level languages, SQL, CSS, NoSQL, Haskell. There are multiple types of fourth generation languages. So if you see here, first and second generation language are called low level language. Low is written here, and third and fourth generation languages are called high level languages. That's why high is written. And relation to object code, this is not required at this stage. Let's move on. So we have already discussed earlier that what is the function between what is the difference between compiler, assembler, and interpreter. Compiler is someone who converts our high level language into the machine code so that the machine can work on it. Assembler converts our assembly language into machine code. We have already discussed that what this high level language or assembly language means. Assembly language is my second generation language. Machine code is the first generation language. High level language is the third generation language. So you need to make you need to be very clear about these things. Interpreter interpreter is a computer program which executes a statement directly at runtime. So it means that if you go and open this website of Google Collaboratory on your end, and you will be coming to a page where there is one cell in front of you. If you write a equal to 10, press shift enter here, you will be coming to the next cell. You can write a and shift press enter. So the value of a will be output as 10. In a way, if you press enter for these two things, this will be the line 1, this will be the line 2. So now because we are running the Python code, let's say this is IPython notebook. If we are running this Python code line by line, we are using the interpreter to understand that what we are trying to do in this particular line, it will get the work done. So in this particular first line, we are just giving the value of 10 into this variable a, and then in the second value, we are just wanting that output of the value a should be coming, right? And because Python is a bit of advanced language compared to C programming language, so that's why here if I wanted to print the value of a, I would have written printf %d and then a, and versus in Python you can directly write a and press enter, the value will be printed. यहाँ पे इतना लिखना पड़ेगा, यहाँ पे सिर्फ इतने से काम चल जाएगा. So that's the difference between C and Python basically. And now we will discuss the program lifecycle, that what happens to our program from the beginning to the end. Initially we type the code and we type it in an editor. Either you if you are writing in VS Code, initially you have to write a program in the editor, or maybe you can write it program in the notepad and save it as .c file. So that kind of editor we require. And similar is the case when we use in the online compilers, we have to write. So the area where we write our code is called the editor. Second thing is called the preprocessor and compiler, and it means that we need to uh, pre-process uh, pre-process the code in a way when we say that we are trying to hash include. Or so hash include mainly is part of library. It fetches the data from the backend. So that's linker job. But when we say that we are preprocessing it, preprocessing means that we are kind of doing all these things before the start of the program. So if I write hash define pi 3.14 and we are including some library, so because we are doing these things before the start of our int main, so that's why this is called preprocessing. So this is preprocessor only, and within the preprocessor, the linker works because we linker is only handling the libraries, but hash define is also part. So hash define does not have anything to do with linker, but then it is part of preprocessor statement. So we can say in a way hash include is part of linker and hash define is part of preprocessor, because we are preprocessing it, we are making our code ready to get the work done. And also compiler also helps us to get the uh, I mean to find the errors. If there is a error, compiler will highlight it and it can help us to get the work done. Loader means that we are loading the program into the memory. Loader simply do one thing, that let's say I have done some coding, I have saved it with c dot extension file. So whatever the values are required here, so let's say int a, int b, and let's say char a, char c in fact. So and suppose we give the values also a equal to 10, b equal to 10, and c equal to, let's say, a with a single quote. So in this we are kind of getting this two integers a size of 8 bytes, because one integer is 4 bytes. Similarly char has 1 byte. So this 9-byte area will be given to my program within the ram, and this 9 bytes area will be given through the loader. So loader helps us to save all the values in the memory. In fact, the full program is also saved kind of on the memory only. In a way, when you save it, it is saved in the hard disk. But then if when you run it, when you execute it for the short while, the full program comes within this RAM only, and within that all of the stuff is done. So that kind of work is done by the loader. And CPU generally executes the instructions. So whatever operations we are trying to do, maybe a into 10, a plus 10, so those kind of all the operations are done by the CPU. So that's kind of the program lifecycle. All these things need to be done, and after the execution, obviously the results will be in front of us. So these are the 5 things. Now let's discuss the malware, that what are the different malwares in a computer. Malware can also be called the malicious software. So what are the different kinds of viruses? So these are the basic terms that you need to understand, and let's discuss them. So adware means that whenever we have some advertising supported software, let's say that I'm installing some software, maybe uTorrent or some other software, maybe AVG antivirus. So those kind of softwares, when we install, especially the free versions, they always show some kind of adware in that. So because they might have sponsored that free software, so they kind of take they want the permission from us that I mean they can install a bundle of softwares in our computer. So they take care of installing those kind of softwares in the laptop. And then bots mean that automatically performs the specific operations such as video gaming, online contests. So whenever uh, you, let's say you open a website and you want to check something again and again, so there is a very famous website called Google Scholar, and on Google Scholar you can search different research papers. So when I was doing my PhD, there were around 200 plus references that I was putting in my thesis. So again and again I was supposed to go to Google Scholar and pick the latest version out of it. So after maybe 15-20 references, if I did the work continuously, after 15-20 references, Google Scholar gave me a captcha that I am not a robot. So that kind of a captcha, either I have to tick mark or maybe I have to select a ship out of the 9 images in front of me. So all those kind of things are done to make sure that you are not a bot, you are a human being. So in a way, when we are doing something, one operation again and again on a computer, and we are getting the work done quickly, sometimes there is a red flag and computer thinks that it is a bot or a robot in front of me. So automatically whatever you do, obviously that operation will be done without any break and quickly it will be done, the multiple commands will be given. That's what bots are. And so similarly, bugs are something which humans create. So when we do errors in programming, if we do some kind of error, that's bug in our program. Ransomware means that let's say someone hacks your computer, and if you want to unlock it, they say that pay us some money and then only we will give you the password and you can unlock and get the work done on your laptop. So this kind of ransomware is also has been very common in the last 1 or 2 years. We have heard multiple cases where ransomware has been used to get the money out of someone. Rootkit is something which is maliciously giving the remote access to your computer to someone else. So let's say that Alice is someone who is trying to communicate with Bob. So these are the two names very famous in the computer science community. And while sending a message, someone else is also, maybe some C person, ABC. So so some person C has put some information within this message and it goes to Bob, and Bob thinks that it has come from Alice, so he installs something on his computer, right? And Bob thinks that Alice has sent it, but he doesn't know that person C has made some changes to that program. So that kind of thing might be it might be rootkit, because maybe you install a software and it is giving remote access to this Bob's computer to C. So C can access Bob's computer now. That kind of thing can be done, and even spyware. So this case is also true for spyware. So this person C, after getting the remote access, might also want to look into different files of this person. Let's say it is not Bob but Tom. So this person Tom's computer, uh, spyware can do. This will be spyware's work to help C person to get the information out of Tom's computer, or maybe just to look at what kind of files are there in that. And Trojan is something that steals your soft passwords from the computer on your laptops. So make sure that you don't have any kind of Trojan in your computer. It will be very harmful in case you are linking your credit cards and debit cards to do some transactions. So make sure that you are free of Trojans in that case. And worms are something which exploits the host computer resources. So in a way, when we say that my computer is taking too much RAM, so it might be a case that you are running program A, B, and C, and you think that these are very less memory taking softwares. Maybe they are taking only 100 MB each. So technically your computer should use only 300 MB, but then it is using suppose 3 GB of RAM. So it is using your resource, and you cannot understand that why it is taking so much of RAM, or maybe your mobile or laptop is taking maybe 10 MB per second speed without your knowledge that what is being done. So these kind of things happen when there is a worm in your computer or a phone. So make sure you scan your laptops and phones and you are free of these things. Spams, we all know, we have seen spam folders in our email boxes. So spam are the unwanted emails. So these are the different malwares that are available, that you should know. If you have a doubt in any kind of a malware, you can ask it right now.
सर
Yes.
सर जो आपने एक रूट किट वाला बताया
हाँ जी,
इसमें जैसे मतलब हमारा कोई कंप्यूटर कोई और एक्सेस कर सकता है, तो जैसे हमारे पास एक ऐप होते हैं एनी डेस्क जैसे,
हाँ हाँ हाँ। अब
तो
एनी
वो भी।
एनी एनी डेस्क है जो, या फिर टीम व्यूअर है ना। तो ये दो सॉफ्टवेयर हैं जो काफी फेमस हैं टू शेयर योर स्क्रीन विद समवन। इवन Zoom has this facility, you can share your screen and that person can assess your screen and get the work done on your computer. So ये तो हो गए kind of legitimate because we are giving the permission, right? But then it might be a case that AnyDesk is being used by the rootkit. Rootkit वालों ने, let's say they have sent a virus in your computer, that is a rootkit. So rootkit might take advantage of AnyDesk which is pre-installed in your laptop, and AnyDesk remotely backend पे चलता रहेगा, हमें पता भी नहीं होगा कि AnyDesk चल रहा है, and it might give remote access to someone. So in that case, it will mean that AnyDesk is corrupt. So you
ओके
need to make sure while installing a software. There is a website called virustotal.com. So what you can do is you can go to this website whenever you download a software. Let's say you download AnyDesk .exe. So maybe some kind of installer. If you get this kind of a file and you directly double click on it, you will install this software. But before installing it, I will recommend go to this website, upload this file on this website. There are around 59 or 60 different softwares available on the backend, including AVG antivirus, Norton antivirus, all those kind of different antiviruses are there. All of them will scan your file of this exe, and they will give you a green signal that it is not corrupt, it has not been modified by anyone. So this virus total website is kind of very famous, and it helps us to make sure that we are installing a legitimate software and not the corrupt software. Anything else?
नो सर।
Okay, so let's come to this thing. We still have nearly 20 minutes, so we will try to uh, get this thing done. It is a very small topic, but important one. So we know, I have always been saying that my float number, when I write this float n equal to 3.14, I have always said that my float number has a size of 4 bytes. Yes or no? So ये सबको पता है ना कि float मेरा 4 bytes का होता है. And even when I write int n equal to 10, even this integer variable is of 4 bytes. ये सबको पता है, इसमें किसी को कोई डाउट तो नहीं है? Have you people done assignment 1 and 2 in labs? हाँ जी, anyone? Can you people tell me that have you done assignment 1 and 2 in lab?
So we only did some questions.
Okay, which question did you do?
सर ये थोड़ा सा इंट्रोड्यूस हो चुका है, एज इन कितने का किस कैरेक्टर का कितना वो है स्टोरेज.
Okay, so there are different kinds of variables. ठीक है, integer variable होता है, हम इस पे आएंगे. I just want to give you a heads up. So double, और क्या होता है, long int होता है. So these are some of the very famous and I mean these kind of data types are used mainly in the programming. So integer का size, मैं सबका size लिख लेता हूँ यहाँ पे. Integer has a size of 4 bytes, float has 4 bytes, char is of 1 byte, double and long int are of 8 bytes. It simply means that my integer, because it is of 4 bytes, it will take 4 bytes in my RAM. अगर ये मेरी RAM है, so when I say that my A value of 10 is being stored, so this 10 will be taking up to 4 bytes. इसका मतलब ये है, very simple. And similarly, if I say that my float value, let's say float pi equal to 3.142, if I write this, so this pi will be again given 4 bytes. So this is 4 bytes. ठीक है, जो ये एरिया है एक बॉक्स में, it is 4 bytes in a RAM. Generally, when we you must be knowing that your laptop is 32-bit or 64-bit processor. Have you people seen that what kind of Windows you people are installing in your laptop? Is it 64-bit Windows or 32-bit Windows? Have you seen that?
64 bit.
60
4 bit.
64-bit is a very common now. 64-bit Windows का मतलब यही है that in a RAM your one word, इसको one word बोलते हैं, जो ये हमारा है ना पूरा, ये एक word है, इसको हम word बोलते हैं, इसको हम word size भी बोल देते हैं जब हम इसका size लिखेंगे। तो इसमें 64-bit सिस्टम में मेरा word size will be 8 bytes which is equal to 64-bit। तो ये वाला जो साइज होता है 64-bit, इट मीन्स माई वर्ड साइज ओनली। ठीक है, कि मेरी रैम का जो एक बॉक्स है उसका साइज क्या है। तो जनरली दैट्स व्हाट इज called the word size, and from here we can say that for a 32-bit system, क्योंकि सी प्रोग्रामिंग पुरानी है तो 32-bit उस टाइम पे काफी बड़ा होता होगा, राइट। 64-bit तो अभी आया है 10-15 साल पहले, उससे पहले तो 32-bit वाली मशीन ही चल रही थी मार्केट में। तो 32-bit काफी फेमस था। तो जो मेरा इंट है या फ्लोट है उनको साइज 32-bit का मिला। इसका मतलब है कि जब वो रैम में जगह लेते थे वो पूरा अपना बॉक्स ले लेते थे कि यार मैंने ए रखना है 10 रखना है तो मुझे पूरे का पूरा 4 बाइट चाहिए, पूरे का पूरा वर्ड साइज एक यूज कर लेते थे। but it does not mean that I can store 3.142 directly in this RAM box. Obviously RAM में 3.142 तो नहीं आ सकता, 0101 ही आएगा, क्योंकि कंप्यूटर्स को तो यही लैंग्वेज समझ में आती है, right? We discussed yesterday that why only binary numbers are being understood by a computer, because of the current, right? Voltage 1 means voltage high, so 1 value for that and 0 for voltage low. So we need to find that how should I store this 3.142 in my RAM in the form of 0 ones. ठीक है, तो मतलब ये 32-bit का जो नंबर है ये एक्चुअली में होता क्या है, 3.142 नहीं लिख सकते हम डायरेक्टली रैम में। तो 32-bit में जो आएगा उसको हम बोलते हैं that we need to understand that how does this IEEE 754 standard works to write the 32-bit value in the RAM. IEEE 754 का मतलब है 754 is maybe the file name of IEEE. IEEE is organization, full form is Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers. It is a very famous organization which has some standard rules in the computer field, and they make some rules and that has to be followed when we are working with these kind of things. So in a way, now if I want to store a value, let's say 3.142, I want to convert it into 32-bit information so that I can store directly that into my RAM. तो उन 32 बिट्स में हम क्या लिखेंगे उसके बारे में पढ़ते हैं कि हम कोई भी, अगर मेरा डेसिमल नंबर है, डेसिमल नंबर का मतलब है जिसमें डेसिमल आ रहा है, ठीक है। For example 3.5 is my decimal number because it has a decimal in it. So we need to see that how we save this decimal number or a floating number in the computer memory. We should move to the next slide now. So I will come to this slide, but I want to give you, I will come to the slide again. बस यहाँ पे तीन चीजों को नाम देख लो बस. There are 3 keywords written here: sign, exponent, and fraction. Fraction can be also said as mantissa. So mantissa, exponent, and sign, and it has a space of 23 bits, 8 bits, and 1 bit. Total size है अपने पास 32 bit का. 32 bits की जो numbering है, it has been done from 0 to 31. Okay, and because it is from 0 to 31, उसमें से 0 से लेकर 22 तक फर्स्ट 23 बिट्स हैं जो, वो मेरी मेंटीसा को हैंडल करेंगी, मेंटीसा और द फ्रैक्शन पार्ट। नेक्स्ट 8 बिट्स हैं जो 23 से 30, they will handle my exponent value. I will come to this what this exponent means. And this sign value takes care of the number. If it is a positive number, sign bit will be 0, and if it is a negative number, sign bit will be 1. तो ये सिंगल बिट है, ये सिर्फ 0 1 नहीं होगा एंड में, ठीक है। तो मतलब सिर्फ फर्स्ट वैल्यू देख के जो MSB होगा, मोस्ट सिग्निफिकेंट बिट होगा मेरे इन 32 बिट्स में से, सिर्फ उसको देख के पता चल जाएगा कि मेरा नंबर पॉजिटिव है या नेगेटिव है, ठीक है। आई विल कम टू दिस पर्टिकुलर नंबर दैट हाउ दिस डिकोड्स इनटू दिस 0.15625, बट बिफोर दैट आई वांट टू मेक श्योर दैट यू अंडरस्टैंड दिस the process is easier on a smaller number. So let's say I want to convert this 5.2 into a 32-bit equivalent of it. ठीक है, तो इसको convert कैसे करना है वो देखते हैं. I can write 5.2 from decimal into binary as 101 क्योंकि 101 मेरा 5 होता है, I know. अब 0.2 को कैसे करते हैं, 0.2 multiply 2 0.4 आएगा, similarly multiply 2 0.8 आएगा, multiply 2 1.6 आएगा, multiply 2 again 1.2 आएगा. ठीक है, तो हाँ ठीक है, उसके बाद दोबारा से मल्टीप्लाई 2 अगेन 0.4. वाई, बिकॉज वी विल पिक दिस 0011 फ्रॉम हेयर एंड वी विल राइट इट हेयर 0011. अब दोबारा से 0.24 आ गया, ये 0 दोबारा पिक होगा तो ये आ गया, तो मतलब यहाँ पे ये मेरी सीक्वेंस बन जाएगी. 0011 विल कीप ऑन रिपीटिंग बिकॉज 0.2 मेरा यहाँ पे रिपीट होना शुरू हो गया. ठीक है, ये मेरा 0.2 रिपीट होना शुरू हो गया, इसलिए मेरा ये वाला आउटपुट भी रिपीट होता जाएगा 0011 0011 0011 अप टू इन्फिनिटी. इसीलिए हमने यहाँ पे लिखा है 0.2 को इट इज 0.0011 0011 डॉट 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 डॉट. ठीक है, तो इतना समझ में आ गया सबको कि मेरा 5.2 कैन बी रिटन एज 101.0011 ऐसे करके हम लिख सकते हैं. यस और नो?
सर
इसमें
ये वाला पॉइंट वाला समझ नहीं आया.
अभी बताता हूँ. सपोज 3.5 था, तो 3.5 को अगर डेसिमल है, इसको मैं बाइनरी में कन्वर्ट करना चाहता हूँ, तो इसका इक्विवेलेंट क्या होगा, जल्दी से बताओ. हम 3 को लग करेंगे, 0.5 को लग से कन्वर्ट करेंगे. 3 को कन्वर्ट करने के लिए हम क्या करते थे, 3
पर
डिवाइड बाई 2.
011 होगा ना 3 का.
हाँ, 3 को हम 1 1 लिख सकते हैं 011 की बजाय. सिर्फ 1 1 लिख दो तो भी 3 तो है.
यस सर.
यस सर.
उसके बाद पॉइंट एज इट इज आ जाएगा, और 0.5 को मैं 0.1 लिख सकता हूँ बाइनरी में, क्योंकि 2 टू दी पावर 0 2 टू दी पावर 1 और इधर वाली साइड इसका वेटेज होगा 2 टू दी पावर -1. तो इन तीनों को ऐसे करके मल्टीप्लाई करो. 1 इंटू 2 विल बी 2 प्लस 2 रेज़ पावर 0 इंटू 1 विल बी 1. ये हो गया मेरा 3. 0.1 into 1 by 2 which is 0.5, it is 0.5. So we can say that 3.5 can be written as 11.1 in binary. Yes or no? ये आसान है.
यस सर.
ठीक है, एक और छोटी सी चीज. फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैं ये लिखता हूँ 67 को मैं ऐसे लिख सकता हूँ 6 इंटू 10 प्लस 7 इंटू 1. येस और नो?
यस सर.
तो इसको मैं ये लिख सकता हूँ 6 इंटू 10 टू द पावर 1 एंड 7 इंटू 10 टू द पावर 0, तो भी सेम है. Yes.
यस सर.
Okay. So can I say that 67 can be written as 6.7 into 10 to the power 1? तो भी सेम है.
यस सर.
On the similar lines, can I say this 11.1 will be equal to 1.11 into 2 to the power 1? क्योंकि मेरा यहाँ पे बेस 10 था तो मैंने 10 की पावर लिखा. अब यहाँ पे मेरा बेस 2 है तो मैं यहाँ पे 2 की पावर लिख रहा हूँ. बात वही है जो मैंने यहाँ पे लिखी है ना अभी, 67 को 6.7 into 10 to the power 1, वही चीज मैंने ऊपर लिखी है. 11.1 को मैं लिख रहा हूँ 1.11 into 2 to the power 1. सेम एग्जैक्ट चीज है, यहाँ पे बस बेस 10 है और यहाँ पे बेस 2 है. बात वही है. समझ में आ रहा है क्या हो रहा है?
यस सर.
इसमें किसी को डाउट नहीं होना चाहिए, क्योंकि अगर ये समझ में आ गया फिर ये पूरा प्रोसेस बहुत आसान है. ये वाला दोबारा लिखूंगा. I can write 678 as 6.78 into 10 to the power 2. ये सबको पता है, बचपन से देखते आ रहे हैं. But I am saying is यहाँ पे क्योंकि बेस 10 था इसलिए 10 to the power 2 है. लेकिन अगर मैं 11.1 को बेस 2 को लिखता हूँ तो मैं इसको ऐसे लिखूंगा, तो यहाँ पे मेरा बेस 2 आएगा. ये सबको समझ आ रहा है? ये दो स्टेटमेंट सबको समझ आ गए?
Yes, sir.
Be very sure, be very sure. This is very very important thing. चलो, अगर ये समझ में आ गया, यहाँ पे जो ये मेरा 0.11 है, दिस इज माय मेंटीसा और फ्रैक्शन पार्ट, इसको फ्रैक्शन या फिर मेंटीसा बोल देते हैं क्योंकि अब यही वाले टर्म मैं यूज करूंगा इस केस में। तो 0.11 है क्योंकि पॉइंट के बाद जितना भी आया वो सारा मेरा फ्रैक्शन है या मेंटीसा है, और क्योंकि 2 की पावर यहाँ पे 1 है या कोई भी नंबर होता तो दिस नंबर इज माय एक्सपोनेंट नंबर, इसको एक्सपोनेंट बोलते हैं। यहाँ से दो चीजें पता चली हैं, एक तो ये समझ में आया कि 11.1 को मैं 1.11 इंटू 2 टू द पावर 1 लिख सकता हूँ। सेकेंड थिंग ये समझ में आई है दैट जो ये मेरा पॉइंट के बाद वाला हिस्सा है इस सबको मैं मेंटीसा कह सकता हूँ, दिस इज माई एम मेंटीसा, एंड बिकॉज 2 टू द पावर 1 है तो नंबर मेरा 1 हो या 2 हो दैट नंबर विल बी ट्रीटेड एज ए एक्सपोनेंट। इतना समझ में आ गया सबको? चलो अब ये वाला क्रैक करते हैं फटाफट से, अब बहुत आसान हो गया। 5.2 को मैंने लिखा, इट कैन बी रिटन एज 101.001100110011 ऐसे करके मैं चलता जाऊंगा। दिस इज माई डेसिमल, दिस इज माई बाइनरी। ये सबको दिख रहा है? बहुत आसान है। आई एम ओनली सेइंग नाउ कैन आई कन्वर्ट दिस 101 into 1.0100110011 डॉट डॉट डॉट, और यहाँ पे मेरा ई की पावर कितना आएगा, या फिर ई नहीं 2 की पावर कितना आएगा, 2 आएगा।
2 की पावर 2।
हाँ क्योंकि हमने यहाँ से इसको यहाँ पे शिफ्ट करा है तो वापस वहां लाने के लिए 2 स्टेप आना भी पड़ेगा, तो 2 की पावर 2 आएगा। ठीक है, इसका मतलब जो मेरा ई है एक्सपोनेंट है वो मेरा 2 है इस केस में, वही चीज यहाँ पे लिखी है ई प्लस 2। मैंने जो ऊपर लिखा है वही चीज यहाँ पे आपके सामने लिखी हुई है इस लाइन में, ध्यान से देख लो। बस 2 की पावर 2 की बजाय उन्होंने ई की पावर 2 कर दिया, ई प्लस 2 लिख दिया यहाँ पे, कि मतलब जो मेरा एक्सपोनेंट है वो +2 है, इसका मतलब ये है। समझ में आ गई ये वाली लाइन?
यस सर।
बहुत आसान है, ध्यान से देख लो। 5.2 को हमने लिखा ये बहुत आसान था। उसके बाद बस इसको यहाँ पे शिफ्ट करा है क्योंकि रूल ये है टू गेट दिस वर्क डन कि मुझे सिर्फ एक ही 1 चाहिए लेफ्ट हैंड साइड पे, उसके बाद यहाँ पे 1 के साथ पॉइंट लगा दो। तो हमने वो किया, 1 के साथ पॉइंट लगा के बचा हुआ सारा हमने राइट साइड पे शिफ्ट कर दिया। एंड बिकॉज वी हैव शिफ्टेड दिस पॉइंट तो मैंने यहाँ पे e+2 लिख दिया क्योंकि मेरी पावर 2 थी, क्योंकि मैं 2 टू द पावर 2 करूंगा उसको मल्टीप्लाई करके, तो इसी 2 को हमने यहाँ +2 लिख दिया एक्सपोनेंट को। सो नाउ माय मेंटीसा इज दिस पार्ट 01001100110011 जितना भी आएगा, तो ये सारा मेरा मेंटीसा बन गया। दीज आर 23 बिट्स जिसमें 01 आया यहाँ से क्योंकि हमने वो शिफ्ट करके 01 को राइट साइड पे ले गए थे, एंड बचा हुआ 00110011 आ गया यहाँ से जो मेरा ऑलरेडी था। तो टोटल पॉइंट के बाद वाला सारा हिस्सा मेरा यहाँ पे शिफ्ट हो गया मेंटीसा में। ठीक है, द लास्ट थिंग टू अंडरस्टैंड हियर इज दैट व्हाट अबाउट दिस एक्सपोनेंट। अब एक्सपोनेंट मैंने बोला 2 है, लेकिन बनाने वाले ने रूल ये बनाया है फॉर गेटिंग दिस वर्क डन इन 32 बिट रिप्रेजेंटेशन, just to write this 8-bit exponent number I have to add 127 to whatever number my exponent came। तो जो भी मेरा e की वैल्यू होगा उसमें 127 ऐड कर देंगे, दिस इज द स्टैंडर्ड फॉर्मूला। तो क्योंकि मेरा 2 आया था तो मैंने 127 + 2 किया 129, 129 को वी कैन राइट इट एज दिस नंबर। वाई? बिकॉज इफ आई कन्वर्ट दिस नंबर इनटू डेसिमल, इसके वेट्स देखो 1 2 4 8 16 32 64 128, तो 128 वाली बिट और 1 वाली बिट को ऐड करेंगे तो इट इज इक्वल टू 129। इसलिए हमने e+2 को कन्वर्ट करके एक्सपोनेंट को यहाँ पे 129 लिख दिया, और क्योंकि ये मेरा नंबर एक पॉजिटिव नंबर था, ठीक है 5.2, तो साइन बिट 0 हुआ। दैट्स वाई I can now say that my representation of 5.2 is equal to these 32 bits. I hope समझ में आ गया हो सबको। If you have a doubt, you can ask.
सर ये 00110011 बता दो एक बार।
ये बहुत आसान है, मैंने क्या बोला था 5.2 को मैंने लिख सकता हूँ 101.00110011, ये लिख सकता हूँ, ऐसे ही था।
यस सर।
तो मैंने इसको कन्वर्ट किया था 1.010011 into 2 to the power 2 में, यस और नो?
यस सर।
तो जो ये पॉइंट के बाद वाला हिस्सा है उसी को तो कॉपी पेस्ट करा है यहाँ पे।
पता कैसे चला कि 23?
ये रूल है, अभी पीछे बताया आपको मैंने। ये रूल है, रूल ये था that whenever I have to fill 32 bits, उसमें से first 23 bits मेरे fraction के होंगे। first 23
sir.
मतलब 0 से लेके 22 नंबर बिट। समझ में आया?
यस सर, आ गया।
ठीक है। अब यहाँ पे एक चीज ध्यान देने वाली है, ये चीज ना थोड़ा सा, अगर अब आप इसको इन्वर्स करोगे, अगर आपको बोला जाए कि ये नंबर गिवन है और आपको ये वाला नंबर निकालना है, तो वहां पे ना आप फटाफट ये तो कर लोगे, मुझे पता है कि ये वाली चीज तो आप संभालोगे कि चलो ठीक है पॉइंट के बाद वाला हमें पता है। हाँ जी, एनीवन स्पीकिंग? Is the time up? Yes. So we will continue this thing in the next lecture. Till then, revise this thing and we will meet in next lecture and we will continue from this thing. Thank you. I'm ending the session now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.